Set to release on November 15th, 2024, Assassin's Creed Shadows will be the 14th game in the series. With so many installments under their belt already, there are certain things Ubisoft are expected to get right this time around. Not many other game series have managed to stick around for 14 entries. In fact, most fizzle out after just a few, but not Assassin's Creed. Some entries do certain things better than others, but after 13 games, there's a standard that must be held. Throughout the Assassin's Creed franchise, players have stepped into the shoes of famous rogues throughout history. Players can take part in events such as the American Revolution and the Norse invasion of England. AC Shadows will be set in feudal Japan and features two different protagonists, Yasuke, a samurai, and Naoi, a shinobi assassin. Players have been wanting an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan for years now, making Assassin's Creed Shadows the most anticipated entry in the series to date. Assassin's Creed games have always been deeply rooted in stealth. Some entries have had better stealth mechanics than others, but each one has brought something new and unique to the table. That's the whole point of being an assassin, sneaking around and stealthily taking out targets. The more recent Assassin's Creed games have begun to steer away from stealth and take on an action RPG style of combat. Since the beginning, fans have been foaming at the mouth for an Assassin's Creed set in Japan. With ninjas being the epitome of stealth, it only makes sense that players would want to don their hoods and hidden blades and sneak around Japan. If Ubisoft can take the fantastic stealth elements from previous games and successfully throw them into a Japanese setting, then Assassin's Creed Shadows has the potential to become the fan favorite of the series. With the Assassin's Creed series finally traveling to Japan, Shadows needs to feature traditional Japanese-style weapons and combat. Valhalla included Viking raids and Norse hammers as weapons, which added a deeper, more immersive layer to the combat. Shadows needs to add its own flavor to the combat to set it apart from the other entries in the series. A lot of players aren't big fans of the combat in the most recent Assassin's Creed games, many preferring the older, stealthier style of combat. Assassin's Creed Shadows will feature two playable characters, each with their own unique skill trees and abilities. One character will play similarly to the newer titles, while the other will play much like the original games. While this is an interesting mechanic, it's not enough to set AC Shadows apart. In order for Assassin's Creed Shadows to truly have good combat, it must pull certain elements from the past games, while still providing new and enjoyable mechanics. Thanks to the protagonist of Assassin's Creed 2, Ezio Auditore, fans know that Ubisoft is capable of creating interesting and lovable characters. But ever since then, few characters have been able to stand out and connect with the players. Another fan favorite is Edward Kenway from AC Black Flag. But that was several entries ago. Fans have been disappointed with a lot of the characters over the last several games, and Assassin's Creed Shadows needs to change that. Assassin's Creed Shadows already has the advantage of taking place in a unique time and place in history. There is a plethora of historical and mythological figures that Ubisoft can pull from. One of the player characters is Yasuke, the first and only real-life African samurai. But having an interesting character isn't enough. Players need to see them struggle and connect with them in order for them to stand out. Assassin's Creed Shadows has characters interesting enough to rival the best of the series. Ubisoft just have to make players love them. One of the biggest complaints about the most recent style of Assassin's Creed games is that there was simply too much useless stuff to do. Ubisoft absolutely filled Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla to the brim with side content. With hundreds of hours of stuff to do, it needs to be interesting and fun in order to hold the player's attention and keep them coming back. Valhalla is the worst offender, with over 150 hours of content. For a couple of entries there, Ubisoft focused way more on quantity than quality. The developers need to take a step back and scale the game down quite a bit, and they've recognized this. The most recent entry in the series, Assassin's Creed Mirage, is a much smaller and linear adventure, and fans seem to enjoy it. Assassin's Creed Shadows needs to trim the fat and focus on providing unique and interesting experiences throughout its runtime. With other games in a similar setting, such as Ghost of Tsushima and Rise of the Ronin, providing fun and unique ways to get around, Assassin's Creed Shadows will have to make traversing around Japan exciting for players. The Assassin's Creed games have always had pretty basic traversal. In some games, players can ride different kinds of animals across the map or sail all sorts of ships, but the main method of transportation throughout all the Assassin's Creed games is parkour. Parkour has been a staple mechanic in the Assassin's Creed franchise since the very beginning. Ever since the first game released in 2007, fans have loved scrambling across different places throughout history. Throughout the series, the parkour has improved and gotten easier, but players still judge it harshly because it's such a key element of the franchise. If it doesn't have parkour, it's not an Assassin's Creed game. Assassin's Creed Shadows has some serious competition in the traversal category, and developers will need to pull out all the stops if it's to even stand a chance. If there's something that all Assassin's Creed fans can agree on, it's that the modern-day story is all over the place. When the player comes out of the Animus, there's not a lot for them to do, and it's incredibly hard for them to keep up if they haven't played every other entry. The modern day part of the story is the part of the game that most players feel they just have to push through to get to the good stuff. Players don't play Assassin's Creed games for the story that's taking place in the modern day, they play it to run around throughout history as an assassin. The modern day story is necessary for AC games, but developers need to figure out how to keep it brief, understandable, but most importantly, enjoyable. If Assassin's Creed Shadows doesn't have a fantastic modern day story section, then it is going to completely muddle players' opinions on the rest of the game. Assassin's Creed has tried a character swapping system before. Players could switch between Jacob and Evie Fry throughout Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Most fans seemed to enjoy it since it was something new and exciting to the series, and it was well implemented and fun. The main complaint was that story missions had to be played by a set character. Assassin's Creed Syndicate has a fantastic character swapping system that laid the groundwork for whatever will be implemented in AC Shadows. Although this won't be the case, Ubisoft could implement a character swapping system similar to Banish's Ghosts of New Eden, where the player can swap between characters on the fly. A system like this could take the Assassin's Creed style of combat to a whole new level. Whatever character swapping system Assassin's Creed Shadows will implement, it needs to be smooth and make for a pleasant experience for the player. The Assassin's Creed series has always been praised for its historical accuracy. The dedicated team at Ubisoft have spent thousands of hours researching, studying, modeling, and recreating some of the most accurate representations of important landmarks throughout history. Part of what makes an Assassin's Creed game is exploring real-world times and places that are simply impossible to reach. Ubisoft has proven themselves again and again with how much detail they put into the recreation of historical landmarks. After the Notre Dame Cathedral was partially burnt down in 2019, Ubisoft was able to use the models they had for AC Unity to help restore it. Assassin's Creed Shadows has some interesting options in terms of locations to explore, but they'll have to be perfect if it's to live up to its predecessors. What players love most about the Assassin's Creed games is that it makes them feel like an assassin. Assassin's Creed offers something that no other game does with its ability to really throw players into that role. With each new entry, developers add in new mechanics to truly create that assassin simulator feeling. Throughout the series, Assassin's Creed has become more than an assassin simulator. Black Flag let players live out their fantasy of being pirates, while Valhalla is one of the few games on the market where players can play as a Viking. That's exactly what Assassin's Creed Shadows needs to do, make players feel like a samurai. There are dozens of samurai games out there. So Ubisoft needs to dig deep to create a truly one-of-a-kind experience with Assassin's Creed Shadows. If Ubisoft is known for one thing, it's over monetizing their games, and Assassin's Creed is no exception. With every new release, Ubisoft finds new ways to charge their players. Assassin's Creed Shadows is no different. Ubisoft has already announced the ridiculous pricing for the enhanced editions of the game, and fans aren't happy. From season passes that hardly offer any new content and cosmetics that nobody asked for, to a measly 2 or 3 days early access, the AC Shadows enhanced editions are simply not worth their hefty price tag. But as long as players keep paying for it, developers and publishers will continue to charge whatever they want for the measliest scrap of content. Assassin's Creed Shadows needs to get its monetization under control before it's met with even more fan backlash and negativity.